Welcome to KIME, where we break through and cut the BS in sports medicine, rehabilitation, and sports performance, and talk about how things really work.
Clark. C-L-A-R-K. Yeah, sorry. Everyone thinks I say clock in this country. Clark. Clark?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to KIME. Tony Mikla here with Russ Dunning, and we have Jessy Clark with us.
Big hits.
Did I say it wrong?
Say it again.
I did.
Say it again.
Jessy Clark.
Clark.
Is that good?
You sound just like me, yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. You got it right.
Well done. I didn't think you could do that. That's good.
Well, I had to say it the appropriate way.
That was.
If you're Australian, we got to go with it.
Yeah.
Well done.
Clark.
Perfect. Got it. Well, good to have you. Super excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, man, it's awesome. Honored to be here, to have you here with us and talking about both your story and your process and to what you're doing. It's super cool. So I'm excited to hear more about your kind of the process you've been through, obviously with your knee, but then more of your journey and your life as moving into the UFC and the fight that you do and how you got there. So it's cool.
Down to talk.
Sweet. So we're doing it different here for Jessy. We're not drinking, so we're going more.
Sorry.
Which is fantastic.
She's super healthy, so we got to go with Australian ginger beer.
Yeah.
Love it.
Right.
Yeah.
From somewhere Australia.
No, I don't know if this one's
Fever
Australian.
Tree.
No,
This
is New York.
Oh, perfect.
We were going to get
Same
Australian
thing.
ginger beer. Same.
Same.
But if you are in Australia and you were to drink beer,
If I was to drink actual beer,
what would someone drink there?
depends on where you are. So I used to drink back in Australia, and there's a really good beer in the north called Great Northern. It's kind of similar, I would say. It's a summer beer, so it's like similar to Blue Moon, I think. So I liked when I moved to this country, I really enjoyed Blue Moon because I used to drink a lot of summer beers, and then there was 4X something. It might have just been called 4X something.
Yeah, 4X, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, you understand.
I've
Been to
been
Australia
there.
once.
Yeah, one time. I'm an expert. That's all you need. It's like 23 days, so I mean, I learned a lot.
I mean,
But
that's a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So it's so cool. All of the, I don't know what they're called, like counties or suburbs of Australia have their own beer. So it's pretty neat.
Pretty
like,
much.
Yeah, if you're on your own area, like Brisbane, I think 4X is in.
Yep, 4X.
Is in the Gulf Coast there, and then I think that then you in Melbourne and Sydney, they each have their own beers. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they
That's true,
kinda-
because Australians love to drink.
They do.
Yes.
Crown Lager was the best though, but I can't get it here. You can't, it doesn't import it at all.
Really?
Yeah, Crown Lager is only served in a bottle there, but nonetheless.
I find a lot of like random Australian products in this country that I don't expect to find. Like when I found, the other ginger beer that I usually drink, Bundaberg, is from where a lot of my family is. And when I found that like 2 years after moving out here, it was one of the greatest days of my life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I'd missed it so much because like, I don't know, just food is a lot better back home just because I think the ingredients are just a lot fresher than they are. Like Americans like to process everything. So
Classic.
I'd like really missed a lot of Australian taste, and then when I found the Bundaberg ginger beer, I was like, "Fuck, heaven, heaven!" And now it's always in the fridge.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's so good. All right, cool. Well, let's see. What brought you to us? So we've met several months ago now, and in your process, and Russ has been working with you really closely through this process of getting you back from your knee injury.
Yep.
How did it happen?
How did my injury happen?
Yeah.
I was. It happened in my last fight, but I felt like I had already damaged my knee in that camp for the last fight.
Gotcha.
But yeah, my leg got wrapped up and my body got twisted the wrong way over it. But I mean, I still won that fight, so it was fine. And then I had surgery like a month later, I think 5 weeks later.
Yeah.
In the middle of the fight, were you saying, "Oh, there went the knee"?
There was definitely one point in the third round, I think, second or third round, where she like was latched onto my foot. So she was like fetal position and was latched onto my foot, and I felt something go in my knee then, and I was trying to pull my foot out, and then my coaches, because it was at the Apex, we had no crowd, so I was having conversations with my coaches while I was fighting, and so my jiu-jitsu coach was like pull your leg out, and I'm like I can't pull my leg out right now, and then afterwards it was because of my knee, but so
5 weeks later, had the surgery.
yeah,
And now
just did
we're.
nothing but powerlifting for a month and a half, and then had surgery.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So perfect. So what lifts were you doing?
Just traditional, just deadlift squats. Like, I never had surgery before. That was my first. Well, I've had major injuries that I should have had surgery on, but I never got the operation. So I kind of like had an idea in my head that I could prep my body for surgery because I knew I was going to have a long time off,
Sure.
So that was pretty much just what I tried to do, was just build my legs as much as I possibly could to make sure that I didn't lose a bunch of muscle. Like, I work really hard at this. I didn't want to be like a gimp,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Best thing you ever did.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
super intuitive
Yeah, that's the best.
and genius. We were just talking about that earlier. This idea that how important is the prehab process, and you pretty much did it on your own.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So those people wouldn't feel like they could squat. After an ACL, it's not. I haven't had it, so I can't say it's
Yeah.
not bad, but it's you can do a lot with it.
Yeah,
and
I
you
was
can-
box squatting. Like, I couldn't do depth squats.
Yeah.
But I could definitely box squat super heavy as well. Like, I was still box squatting 285. Like, it was fine, I just couldn't go below parallel, and that's when my knee would kind of give out. But
285 on a torn ACL, weighing
145.
a buck 45. So, yeah, for all the people listening,
It's not a bad lift.
yeah, Jessy's not this huge, large person. She's a very fit, 145 pound female. So to do 2 times your body weight with a torn ACL,
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
now I just got to get back to that without a box, without a torn ACL. Then I'll be happy.
how close
My
were you
goal
to
at the
me?
end of this year was to hit a 300 squat, and so I got 285 with the box, and I think my max without the box before I did it was like 260. So I'm close-ish, but then this long period of time I feel like is gonna maybe delay my end of 2021 goal, but it's whatever.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah,
You got Russ in your corner now, so
that's true.
I mean,
That's true.
It's anything's possible.
That's true. I wasn't even allowed to lift weights with my old PT, so the first day I came in, he's like, "Oh, you can deadlift, right? Yeah, go deadlift." Sweet.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, how's the process been? So it's been a little over 6 months now through it. I'm sure it's a little slow in the beginning, maybe a little bit frustrated, or did you find it was pretty smooth for you? How'd it go?
Honestly, like, I was expecting it to be a lot worse than what it was. It was really frustrating because I almost like wanted to be in a lot of pain, because that's what I had been told that was going to happen. I'm like, if you feel like you're in pain, then you feel like you're injured, and it's like, seems legitimate. But I had next to no pain. Like, I think I took painkillers for the first day and then was off them, and I was walking the next day. Like, I was supposed to be on crutches for 2 weeks or something like that, but I was walking the next day. I was rowing a couple of days later. Like, I was fine, So more than anything, I was just annoyed at not feeling injured but still being incapable of doing everything.
Yep.
And then kind of once I hit that 3-month mark, which I think was right when I started working with
like
you.
week 10.
Yeah, somewhere, because
2.5.
I've been in SAC for 5 months now, so
Yeah.
so we've been working together for probably 4.5, I think. So like around that 2.5, 3-month mark was when I started feeling real good, and I was like, fuck this ACL, like I can do whatever I want, like this is fine, and then he had to really slow me down and remind me like what the repercussions were if I went too hard. And then we had a setback because he was like, okay, you can jump rope, and I was like, sweet, just jump rope so much that I fucked myself up and had to have 2 weeks off because I was like, Russ said I can jump rope, like let's go,
Yep.
ready to become a competitive jump roper.
Let's do something.
Literally from an inch to a mile.
Yeah, and then had to
Let's
have
start
2
doing a
weeks
little
off.
bit. Like,
Yeah.
okay. you went too
And then
far.
we
Didn't
realized,
think that
like,
was gonna happen.
oh, okay, let's keep it, like, yeah, you can do it, but let's keep it on the lower volume side. But it's actually been pretty good. Like, coming to KIME, I think has helped a lot because I've actually been able to do stuff, And my previous PT hadn't given me any kind of timeline milestones, whereas Russ immediately was like, okay, I think like if all goes to plan, we can wrestle at this point, like we can do this, and we should get back to fight time October, November, you know. So even just having a timeline and having pretty definitive like goals to hit helps a lot, because I'm very much a goal driven person. So if I don't have any goals, then that's when I like get depressed, and that's when I used to drink a lot and stuff like that if I don't have goals to hit. So through it, that's been kind of the hardest part throughout this process with not being able to book a fight, is that I fucking have nothing to accomplish right now.
Right.
Even though I do, like I have my own businesses and stuff like that, like I have plenty of things to accomplish, but it hasn't been career specific. So being here with you and you like giving me new shit to do every week, and like, okay, if this goes well, then we can do this. Like when your leg comes back to the same size as the other one, then we can add this in, and that kind of has helped so much.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, to get that plan, right? To
Yeah, just
like,
that's it. Just have a plan. My old PT was just like,
You have to wait a little longer.
go do some more 4-inch step downs and calf raises. Fuck me. I get so frustrated every day. I'm like, hey, can I do this today? And he's like, no, just go do calf raises.
I couldn't see that working out very well for you, that's
I
for
was
sure.
so pissed. And then when I moved out to Sac and started seeing Russ, and like I let my PT know, you know, obviously. And then his assistant texted me and was like, he wants to know if he did anything wrong. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm just moving to Sacramento, but he's terrible.
Nothing's wrong.
He wasn't. He just wasn't used to working with I guess, like an active athlete.
For sure. It is a different world.
Yeah.
It's so, there's so many demands, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
like, not to say that you're demanding, but there's a lot going on,
pretty
right?
demanding.
Pretty demanding. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of things to consider, and obviously you're seeing it from a business standpoint and from a lifestyle standpoint of like, this is my life and this is what I want to do, and I need to know like when can I do it, and
Yeah.
I'll do all the stuff you want me to do, but I got to know like,
I need to know an end goal.
yeah,
Like, there's got to be an end date.
when is this thing going to end, you know, like what
Yeah.
am I shooting for? And that's that takes a while to get that kind of experience to be able to say, hey, this is this, we can predict the
Yeah.
future, so to speak, you know. But we can, which
I mean-
which makes it
Yeah, for sure.
great for you, right, to be able to coach you and say, hey, this is what to expect this month, next month, the following. You're going to really
Yeah.
bust your ass here for a month or two. I know you're not going to be able to jump and do something you really want to do,
Yeah.
but you're going to have to hold off on that. And once, okay, now we can go, and here's what's okay, and here's what's not okay. And
Yeah. No, it's been great because it's allowed me to like have a fight date. You know what I mean? And then collaborating with Russ and then my surgeon, like we've come up with a pretty good plan for getting me back fight ready by November, like able to compete again in November, and we're on track for that. And yeah, like before I came out here, it was like just who knows, it was kind of up in the air. Like my surgeon was like, I want you to give me 14 months, and then my PT was like, it's probably gonna be 2 years till you feel good, and I was like, how about we do it in 9? And then I think we're gonna be at 13 months, yeah, if we hit November.
very good.
Almost
Before
painless.
you go to war in the octagon, which is you know, your body is a weapon. Every athlete, their
Yeah.
body is that weapon out in the field or in the octagon, and you have to be in the best shape of your life.
I
You
mean, I
can't
won the
just be
last one
okay.
with no ACL, so I don't really think I need to be in that good shape. I can do it now.
And we do our best when
Yeah.
we make sure that you are stronger than ever, more powerful than ever. And
And definitely, like, even though we're struggling with mobility right now, because I'm driving so much, like because I live in Sac and I train in the Bay, so I'm driving right now with traffic is almost 5 hours some days, and it's like really messing up my hips. But even the work we've been doing here has made my kicks a lot better. Like I'm way more mobile on my feet when I strike and everything. It's been like I wasn't expecting to have athletic improvements through injury recovery.
That's the best part.
No, that's the best part.
That just
Yeah.
warms my heart. That's the good stuff.
Yeah, this is what it's all about, really, is that aspect. That this is
Yeah.
a year, which is a year lost, like certainly in your world, but
Yeah.
at the same time, a year to refocus on your body.
Yeah.
And see all these other areas that you can improve in, or,
Yeah.
or the things you could do that maybe you didn't even see coming, right?
Oh, 100%. Like, there are so many things that I was neglecting, you know, because, like, obviously with MMA, there's so many different aspects and so many different things that demand your time and demand your energy that it's easy to let the it's easy to not prioritize a lot of recovery stuff, you know, because it's always like, all right, I got to wrestle, I got to kickbox, I got to spar, like I got to lift, I got to run, all this stuff that like recovery, stretching, mobility, sauna, like ice tub, whatever, kind of gets pushed to the side because you just don't prioritize it because it's like, oh, it doesn't seem like it directly influences my fight ability. So actually having this injury taught me that a lot, that I need to take, I'm also old as fuck now, so like I need to take better care of my body than what I had to even 3 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tell us about that climb. So you kind of came from a powerlifting background, but also tell us more about your jiu-jitsu background and powerlifting.
I have like dog hair on my nose. Sorry.
Too many dogs in your life.
I have so many dogs. So I started powerlifting. I was powerlifting, I want to say I was 20, 21. I haven't been doing this that long, really. And I saw this article, like I was powerlifting with my boyfriend. My boyfriend at the time was a kickboxer, but was trying to be a bodybuilder. So I would go and do powerlifting while he was doing this bullshit bodybuilding. But he was a terrible person. Anyway, so I remember I was lifting, and I've always been super strong. I think because I'm short and have short limbs, so I just automatically am stronger anyway. But I remember reading this article in the newspaper, and it was like this chick that was the same size as me, how she'd like just won this powerlifting meet, and all her weights were way less than mine. I can't remember what. And I was like, fuck this bitch. Like, I'm going to go, if she can do this, like I can do it, right? But I had a couple of pounds to lose, and then so my boyfriend at the time was like, oh, why don't you come to kickboxing class and try it out? And I'd never even really thought about it. Like I did, I think 3 lessons of karate when I was a kid, and that was it. But I've always been super, super active and very aggressive. So then he took me there, and that first day I didn't powerlift again for probably 5 or 6 years. Like immediate. I was like, I've found it. Like this is it. And before that, I'd always been like, I'm a gypsy. I grew up on the road, and that kind of means that I never really committed to anything, you know. It was just always like, I'm bored of this now, move on to the next thing, or oh, that's upset me, okay, move on to the next thing. And so that first day of kickboxing was the first time in my whole life where I was like, no, I think I've found it, you know. And then so I started kickboxing, and I fought kickboxing a couple of times, and then fought MMA, refused to do jiu-jitsu because I'm like, jiu-jitsu fucking sucks. Like I don't want to touch anybody because I don't like people touching me. I'm like, jiu-jitsu's gross. Like I don't want to grapple on the ground. That's disgusting. People's feet are on the ground. And and so I won my first MMA fight weirdly with wrestling. And then after that was like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at that too, so I better do it. And then all through Australia, so I have 3 Australian titles, 3 Australian championships, and I was always known as the wrestler. Like that was what I was good at, apparently, even though I like just hated it. I still hate it. Like I always wanted to be a kickboxer. I wanted to knock people out, you know, but instead I was really good at wrestling, and that was and I got a lot of submission wins. And yeah, so then I grew to love it. I grew to love jiu-jitsu purely because I was so good at it, you know. Like, I used to compete. I was very lucky when I lived in Brisbane. We had submission wrestling tournaments like twice a month, very, very regularly. And the promotion that ran them, they did them in a cage as well. So you got to use the wall plus the ground. It wasn't like a regular jiu-jitsu competition. And I used to do them every single competition. I would do it. I only ever lost, I think I've had over 300 matches. I've only ever lost twice.
Wow.
3 times, sorry. 3 times, twice to girls, 1 to a boy. Because it got to the point where if I was signing up for tournaments, no one would sign up. Like none of the girls would sign up in the area. So then I would have to compete against the 160-pound guys. And I got really badly injured in one of those. I got spiked on my head. And I have compressed discs in my neck now because of it. But I broke a girl's jaw, broke someone else's elbow, broke someone's femur. Like I was hella aggressive.
Breaking a femur, that's...
Yeah, I feel like she already had she had to have already had like a stress fracture or something. But yeah, it snapped.
With a wrestling maneuver, not the kick.
No, I took her down. It was on a takedown. And that's why I was like, there's no way, like, she had to have already been injured. That wasn't my fault, but I don't take responsibility for anything.
That's a good claim to fame.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
But then that was it. Like, I was so good at grappling that's kind of made me enjoy it a bit more, but I still would much rather kickbox. Like, but with my fight career, like, especially now, I want to be known for having the best Muay Thai in the UFC. Like, that's my goal. Even if I never get to a belt, it's like I want people to watch my fights in 10, 15 years and go like, fuck, her striking was sick. Like, that's what I want. So I make sure, like, I'm still a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and I make sure that I keep it up, because if I always have it in my back pocket, then I'm not scared to commit to striking. Because you see a lot of like really high level strikers, when they go to MMA, they struggle because they're so scared of getting taken down that they don't commit to anything. And I don't want to do that. Like, I want to be so confident in my grappling and my wrestling and my jiu-jitsu that I can fucking throw everything at you, and if you take me down, then cool, we'll fight there as well. Like, no problem.
Right. That's awesome.
How
How many wins do you have by striking?
I only have 2 TKOs, and I think 2 submissions, and the rest are decision. Oh no, I have 3 TKOs. The last one, I fucked her up though. Bad. It was bad. But it was so bad. I mean, it was so good, but it was so bad. They said it was one of the bloodiest female fights that they've seen in the UFC. Yeah, it was tight. Because, like, my dream had always been to be covered in someone else's blood after a fight, and I was. And then after the fight, they were trying to wipe it off, and I, like, yelled at the official, and he was like, I have to. And then my coach was like, Jessy, you don't want me to wipe your face? I'm like, no, leave it, I'm good. Like,
Take a
I just
picture
wanted,
first.
yeah, like, I just wanted the photo with the blood, but then the official was like, we have to wipe it off.
Is that
I
the
was
back?
so
Is that the
annoyed.
back of your phone? Is that the phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's my proudest, one of my proudest accomplishments is that fight, honestly. Especially being as injured as I was as well, like, to have such an astounding performance it was the first fight. I've had 21 fights, and that was the first time that I've ever, like, put everything together and been super, like, aware and in it. Like, I was having conversations with my corner during the fight, like, I was smiling, I was in a good mood, and I was talking to the commentators. Like, yeah, that was definitely a crowning moment for me. Yeah.
Decades of work.
Yeah.
That adds something extra to talk to the commentators during the fight.
Yeah, well, because
You can start making you up.
I just
out there.
want to talk shit to everyone. You know what I mean? Like, I talk so much shit before, because we always have to do commentary interviews, right? So before we fight, we sit down with the commentating team, and they, like, ask us questions so that they have something to talk about while we fight. And I'd, like, always talk a ton of shit to them, and I've always been like, I want to have the best Muay Thai. Like, I want to have the best Muay Thai. This is what I have, and that's what won me that fight. So then I was like, see, that's fucking Muay Thai. I told you.
That's good.
That's so awesome. That's awesome commitment. It's so cool that you found that. It's like, this is what I love to do, and then
Yeah.
be able to kind of pursue that path.
Yeah, I don't even know what I'd be doing if I hadn't have found it, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I'd probably still be managing nightclubs. Like, I was managing nightclubs at the time when I started kickboxing.
Yeah.
Were you bouncing too?
No, but I
gonna say joke.
got the job. I got the job because they were worried about the male security guards kicking out women and getting accused of sexual assault.
Oh, very
So
good.
then I got my management job because of that, because they knew that I
very
could handle myself. Yeah, that was it. And they were like, this solves a lot of problems. But I never had to do anything. I pushed one girl down a flight of stairs, and I threw another girl off the top of the bar.
That's very little.
That was it. Yeah,
Just a
that was in, like, I was doing it for 5 years, so
That's not
it's
bad.
pretty good. Yeah.
I'm sure they deserved it.
Yeah, well, yeah, they both did for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you end up in the U.S. from Australia? What brought you here?
So, wait, how in depth are we getting right now?
Oh,
I mean, I can go super in depth, or I can go like
Do it.
surface level.
Do it. Go deep. I haven't heard this one, so I'm excited.
Oh yeah. So I got really badly beaten up by my ex-fiance, and had him arrested, and he was released. And so my manager now was just my friend at the time. I'd met him. This was in 2016. I'd met him when I fought in Tokyo in 2015. We just stayed friends, and so he was best friends with the matchmaker for the UFC. So I was like, okay, like, this is kind of, like, one, we are really good friends, but he was also a good network as well. So when I got beaten up, I told him, and he was like, what are you going to do? Is he still in Sydney? I was in Sydney at the time, and I was like, yeah. And he's like, you're going to get back with him, because we'd already broken up a bunch of times and got back together or whatever. And he was like, you're going to get back with him, I'm buying you a one-way ticket to Vegas. And he bought me a one-way ticket to Vegas, and I left like 4 weeks later. And yeah, just never went home. That was it. Like I was lucky because I was with another promotion in Victor, which is in the States. So I already had an athletic visa for this country. So I just came over on that, and I had $200, 2 bags, and then that was it. And just kind of made my way in Vegas. I ended up, I didn't know anyone. I knew Danny. Danny's my manager, and I knew him, but he was always hitting on me at that stage. He doesn't anymore since we started officially working together, but before we started working together, yeah, he was always hitting on me. And so I was like, I don't want to stay at this dude's house. He lived in Vegas. I'm like, I don't want to stay at that dude's house. And so I put something on Facebook, and I ended up sleeping on the couch of the cousin of the ex-wife of some dude that I kind of knew through Facebook. It was weird. It was just some really random family. So I slept on their couch for probably 2 or 3 months until I had enough money to rent a spot. But I used to walk 3 hours to the gym every day because I only had $200. And so everyone would be like, why don't you catch a bus? And I'm like, well, then I can't afford to eat. It's either eat or catch transport, So I would walk 3 hours to the gym in my Boston Converse. It was so bad. They're so not good for long distance walking, but always in Converse. Excuse me. Yeah, and then I would walk to the gym and spend all day there, and then walk home at night. And then my coach in Vegas, I came up with an idea to if I could get there at 6 a.m. before the morning classes started, I would set up a coffee stand and sell coffee for $2. So I spent the last of my money buying a little coffee maker and a table and all the supplies, and I would be there at 5:30 every single morning, and I would sell coffee to everyone who came in for the early classes. And that was kind of how I was keeping myself sustained for a while until I could fight and make a little bit of money. But at that stage I was making $500 to fight, so even when I would fight, I was making nothing. I had to pay 10% to management, 10% to my coach, 10% to my other coach, so I had nothing, but it just kind of built up from there. The more I kept doing that, the more I was putting away. Then I eventually started teaching classes, and then I got signed to the UFC, and so that made it a little bit easier. Then I got sponsored by Monster Energy, and that's pretty much if I wasn't with Monster Energy, I probably wouldn't still be in this country. I wouldn't be able to afford to, just because I've had this injury. I was out for another 1.5 years with a Liz Frank fracture, so I've had a lot of time off, and I'm very lucky that I have Monster Energy. Otherwise I'd be fucked.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear how those sponsors are big parts of that process too.
Yeah.
And I think people may misunderstand their importance in this, a sport like this where you make money by winning fights.
Yeah, we're seasonal workers.
Yeah.
And if we don't win, we get half a paycheck. And at the beginning, my half a paycheck was $200 sometimes, now my half a paycheck still isn't that much, but at least I can afford to pay my rent, yeah, it's not easy, but it's worth it. It's fun. I got to move to this country. I've met so many different people. I've traveled the world. If I wasn't doing this job, I wouldn't have done any of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to hear that, and just hear the opportunities that provides, and then how hard you had to work for it too. Obviously that's not an easy process, and
yeah, but nothing worth having comes easy, right?
True that.
Anytime I haven't had to work for something, ex-boyfriends, I just don't appreciate it. I'm like, oh, I have no respect for you. You were too easy,
Fair enough. That's for sure. Cool. So we're here about 6-7 months post now. What are we doing for the next for the rest of the year? Just training and prepping?
You gotta ask him. Oh. He's the boss.
Okay, true that.
We're sprinting, we're jumping.
Yeah, we're doing.
She's
we're
boxing,
doing everything.
kickboxing.
The only thing, we're not wrestling yet. That's hopefully around July, I think we said. I ran 1.5 miles the other week, which was my first longer run, and that kind of irritated it a bit for a few days, but everything's been good. So it's just kind of building on what we've already, we've increased a lot of my athleticism. My striking's gotten a lot better, the last kind of piece is going to be jiu-jitsu and wrestling, and then mobility. I feel like that's our priority for the next 2 or 3 months, is just really working a lot of mobility, because obviously when something gets injured, everything kind of offsets to to try to alleviate it. So I'm
For
like
sure.
struggling with a lot of those things right now. So that's kind of that's my main priority in this immediate moment. And then once I can start wrestling it, it's just making sure that I can manage this with the added workload. And then like I won't, even if like my surgeon said he'll clear me once I can wrestle. That was his stipulation. Like once you can wrestle and you're comfortable with it, like I'll clear you. But I really don't want to, like when I had my Liz Frank, I came back from that injury way too early and I wasn't ready to fight, and I fought and I lost and had a terrible camp and re-injured myself and just all these things. So I don't want to make that same mistake. So really like the next few months are kind of in his hands. Cause if I'm allowed to make the decisions, I would be like, yeah, I can book a fight right now. Like that's just the reality. That's why we pay people to tell us what to do, because fighters are fucking stupid. No, it's more just when you're passionate about something. When you're passionate about something, it's hard to understand that sometimes you need to say no or to slow down in order to progress. And that's why we have professionals. Russ, my head coach, my jiu-jitsu coach, like even my surgeon, like they're all there to kind of make sure that they're reining us in and give us some structure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's always this hustle to come back from an injury.
Yeah.
And there's this unnecessary rush.
Well, because there's this glory in coming back early, you know, like I've noticed that a lot because I post a lot of stuff on Instagram, especially about my knee, and I always have people messaging me like, oh, Tony Ferguson came back in 6 months or whatever. I'm like, fucking cool, like good for Tony Ferguson, like that's no problem. Even other people, when I first had my surgery, other people were like, oh, I had the same surgery and I was back doing this at 2 weeks, and I wasn't back doing that same thing at 2 weeks, and it kind of started bumming me out because I'm like, shit, like I should be doing better. I should be further ahead than what I am. And then once I kind of was like, hey, this is my whole job. Like, it's not just, oh, I have another job that I can go to whilst I'm going through recovery. It's like, I do not get to do my job and make an income until I've recovered. So I need to make sure that I do it right. And I'm lucky that like it happened kind of coming off a really good win. So I had a lot of momentum behind me, because that's also one of the things, like, MMA memory is so short, entertainment industry memory is so short, where it's easy to just drop off and become irrelevant and people forget about you. So that was kind of like, I feel very grateful that I had such a good performance before I had surgery, before I had to have time off, and also that I'd been very public about kind of everything that's been going on with it, just to try to stay relevant, really, because if people don't want to see us fight, we don't get paid. Like, that's
right.
it.
Yeah.
We're entertainers, we're not just athletes.
I think it's been great how you've kind of taken that social media channel and kind of shown off your rehab every step of the way, and been very transparent, say, this is what I can do now, this is what I can do now, and really kind of opening it up. And it's been wonderful just to see that just that transparency and honesty you have with the world. This is who I am, this is where I'm at, and I'm working really hard to do it. I give you a lot of props for just how you hold your head up like that.
Well, I feel like a lot of people, especially like, I'm not going to say celebrities, but people in the public eye, they don't want anyone to see anything negative about them. Like, there's this, especially with social media, like there's this pressure to always present a perfect image and a perfect version of you. And I know that a lot of my fan base likes me because I'm relatable, you know, like I look like a regular person, like I am covered in tattoos, you know, I like cuss a lot, like I eat fucking burgers all the time, like I drive a truck, like I'm not elevated above anyone else. And that's why I've always felt it's really important to highlight the negatives, highlight when something is bad, like highlight what goes wrong, highlight the reality, especially after this, because like a lot of athletes especially won't even tell you like what their rehab is like. And there's so many people that don't have the resources that I'm very fortunate to have, who are just kind of stuck with PTs like my first PT, or who can't afford a PT in the first place, you know, I feel like that's been the biggest thing that I've noticed with the more I post about my rehab and stuff, is that other people are like, oh, like we're about to have the same surgery and I'm going to try to follow what I've seen you do and stuff. And I'm like, oh, maybe don't follow me, because I also did a lot of dumb shit. But I just think being transparent is really important.
I'm glad you say that, because you should also preface your powerlifting background and how strong you were, because you're doing pretty amazing feats, I would say, at 6 months, 7 months out right now.
Well, I have to try to tell everyone that I prepped for surgery as well. Like that's been my biggest point to hit home, is like I got my body ready for surgery.
Which is massive. I think the other thing you said there too is about other people like saying what they were doing and what they were at the time, and I think it's so misguided because there's such a big perspective to see, like to look at your whole day or look at your whole like month as far as workload that you're doing, like whether it be endurance work, strength work, mobility work, and some of your tactical work that you're doing specifically like skill development, like kickboxing, boxing, etc. And looking at that as the whole big picture versus someone who says, well, I was doing this at that time frame. Well, if that's all you were doing, that's actually not impressive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And people don't understand that when people throw stuff out there. And this is a space that gets that a ton. Like, oh, well, you should be able to do this at this time frame. You should be able to do that at that time frame. Well, there's a lot of variables in there.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there are a lot of variables around the injury itself that make it complicated, make it slow, how fast you heal, genetics, sleep, recovery, nutrition, preparation, all those things make age, all those things make huge impacts on it. So
yeah, absolutely. And I feel it's something that I've noticed because I've been coaching, particularly kickboxing, for as long as I've been fighting. And one thing that I've noticed that fucking drives me up the wall is that when people get injured, they're like, all right, I can't do anything. Whereas like I've had so many huge injuries. Like this isn't the first time I've blown out my knee. Like I've done it multiple times. I just couldn't afford healthcare. Like now I have insurance with the UFC. But like I see so many people and so many fighters who are like, oh, this is hurt. Like I can't do anything. And what I try to highlight is like there is always something that you can do, no matter what your injury. Like unless you were debilitated from the neck down, disabled. Like, but if it's your foot, if it's your knee, if it's your lower back, or if it's your elbow, if it's your shoulder, whatever. Like there's always something that can be done. And so that's also been why I've been so vocal and transparent about what I'm doing, because I'm like, it's like one piece of my body, right? Like there's a million other things I can do.
That's a great message. I'm glad you're that voice to the community, because you have a huge following online, and it's good to people need that, because we all get injured in life. 80% of people have severe back pain. And we see people all the time that get depressed and lose identity when they have a severe injury. So to be that voice is awesome.
Yeah, and that's another thing I've been trying to be a little more open about as well, is like the depression that happens after being debilitated for a while, incapacitated for a little while, or being unable to do what it is you love. Because I feel like that's another thing that athletes in particular try to hide, but it's a very real fucking thing. Like the emotions I've felt since I did my knee have been like, I've had issues with depression before, like fucking alcoholism, like a lot of different whatevers, but like the things that you feel when the one thing that you love is taken away from you is like, I don't know what I can even compare that to, so I feel like a lot of people don't want to talk about that, because being depressed or being sad or not feeling strong is seen as being weak, but that's not true. Like speaking about it is being strong, trying to hide it is being weak.
So true. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, because you can't say that enough about how challenging that is.
Yeah, the first step to fix a problem is to acknowledge that there's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Jessy, I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, sharing your story and your process, and it's pretty awesome. I knew this was going to be a good one, and it definitely was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Mental toughness right there.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so much.
I don't feel very mentally tough very often, but thank you.
Well, so much persistence, I think, in so much of what you've done throughout your life is pretty cool and shows through.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So good luck. We'll keep excited to work with you and keep following you through your...
I'll be here next week.
Yeah. That a girl. All right. You guys are watching KIMEcast. Thanks for listening. This was KIMEcast, and we are the KIME Human Performance Institute. Thank you very much for listening. We'd love to continue the conversation with you. Please hop on our social media. It's at KIMEHPI, and engage with us there. If you'd like us to feature a topic or answer any questions live on the show, post your comments there. You can also check us out on our website at kimeperformance.com, and there you can see links to content that we've posted throughout our podcast for more information.